manifestation course. Yeah, this is exciting. And we've come a long way already. And to get to class 10 means we're going into some deeper healing work. And that's exciting too. So today you're ready to go a little deeper into this
Yay.
world of healing and what the inner child means and how to heal it. It's a very, very important part of our life, and certainly the healing coaching part. But a little preview of what is to come, as this course, you've already gone very much into different ways of manifesting, goal setting, using coaching wheels, NLP pacing, leading, the coaching interview process, and we did different hypnotherapy techniques. And there's going to be another powerful one with the inner child today, one of the most powerful ones I think you'll experience. And of course, you're going to continue to integrate and grow. And it does take a while for your neural pathways in your brain to hook up and sync all this stuff. Uh, but it happens. And at times there's just these exponential breakthroughs, which you probably are already aware of, ahas. And from sometimes from class to class, and certainly from course to course. Um, and then the next course, the Heart and Soul of Coaching and Healing, the one that begins June 10th, we're going to go deeper into the understanding the spiritual path, the stages, using the spiritual kinesiology healing system. And you'll be understanding what are group and social archetypes, some very powerful healing techniques you're going to learn in checklists in that class. So there's a lot of exciting, fun things to come. And again, there'll be like exponential growths. And suddenly, some people, and I know you've probably all experienced this to one degree or another, like at a certain point, it just sort of clicks in. Things just make sense. And the pieces start to fall together. And that's how you get more and more mastery and understanding, and your intuition grows. So that takes us to today's class, which is going to be an information action path class, again, filled with very, I think, practical information that you'll be able to use right away. And some of it can be pretty deep and powerful because we're talking about inner child. And I know that subject is somewhat familiar to all of you, but just out of curiosity, how many of you have had like experiences with the inner child, have done inner child work with yourself or with others? Is that something new to you, Aline? Okay, yeah. And Jocelyn, I would imagine, and Linda, I would imagine. Well, I know Linda, you've been in our course, so I know you've done some of the
Yeah.
inner child work there. Jocelyn, is this familiar?
Yes,
The topic?
both professionally and personally.
Yeah, I would think it would be, giving your counselor background. Um, Good, excellent. So today is going to be something of a crash course in child development, very briefly, just to put some references together. We've had some crash courses in hypnotherapy, as I said before. And the reason I'm doing this, and I know some of it may be a review for some people, is when you meet your inner child and you want to have a sense of, given the age of that child, what is going on in that child's landscape, that world, just general markers, things that are either on or off. And of course, with the inner child, when we act out or see people acting out, like a child acts out, we act out, we get angry, we get very defensive, etc. Why is that? It's unconscious. It's our inner child, this active living energy inside of us. And there's a healed child, a healthy child, sometimes called the magic child or wonder child, we'll talk about, and the more wounded child, the parts that didn't get their needs met. And that can show up as being very, irresponsible in your life, or maybe overly responsible. Maybe you're a workaholic. It can be very impulsive. And remember, we're talking about how people change. We talked about that in, I think it was the last class. And the convention, you don't change by, quote, talking to people. And that's why normal talk therapy may be limited. And the way people change normally, the way we really change is from authority figures, following an authority figure, or like a parent, like a teacher, like a government leader type thing. And I think we can see that all around us. And repetition. Commercials keep repeating things, and that changes our mind. It's just in our mind the way, quote, we're thinking, because it's quite unconscious autopilot. So that's the way people normally change. And from the outside in. I mean, the people who may be programming you or controlling you are doing it intentionally, maybe from an egotistical place or a manipulative place, but it's often affecting us unconsciously, where these things just show up in our minds. But the way you can intentionally change, the way we do it, we're going to do it today, is through, well, hypnotherapy, energy healing, inner work, energy psychology. And so today we'll go into the inner child, and I wanted to just get a sense from you what you think of when the inner child comes to mind. What comes to mind for you? Any, Jocelyn, what comes up for you when you hear inner child?
It's the emotional, I think emotional being is where you are emotionally.
Emotional, what, reactions or?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And Linda, anything coming up for you for the inner child? What comes to mind just in a, if you're there to, if you can
you hear
chime.
me?
Yes, we can.
Oh yeah, I unmuted. So I really when I hear inner child, I think of the patterns and stories and the kind of beliefs that we've about ourselves in particular that we've developed because of what our parents have told us or other important people and things like that. So it's often a stuck place for a lot of people. I guess that, yeah, I guess I think about a very vulnerable part of ourselves that may be holding us back, or making us repeat same behaviors, and we're like, dang, I've done that again, or or the things that get frustrated. And so, I mean, inner child's not all like that, but that's kind of the piece of me that I think of when I think inner child is a piece, definitely the part that needs healing and nurturing kind of thing.
Right. Yep. Well said. Yeah, that's part of what we're going to go into. And again, the healed child, the happy child, is sometimes called the magic or wonder child, and we want to tap into that as well. And as we heal ourselves, we do, and that's part of our spiritual growth, and it's very wonderful. So with that introduction, with that idea, some of those ideas in mind, let's go into this brief how children actually develop when we were children. I'm going to take it from 3 points of view briefly: how we develop mentally, how we develop emotionally, how we develop morally. And so all of this is not only interesting, but when you start to heal yourself, you get a sense of what you're dealing with in the child. For example, if you start to feel, say you have a problem, you feel very alone or isolated, that's the issue, and it goes back to the inner child. Well, if it's coming from when you were 2 years old, you're pretty much pre-verbal. You don't have much language. You're mostly senses and huggings and smiles, and so that's what would be healing to a 2-year-old. Whereas if it was a 12-year-old who felt, say, again, maybe lonely or isolated, it could be not having support, peer group, and that child has logic and deductive reasoning that you would have sort of a different need too. So that's partly why I'm explaining this. So just going into the mental cognitive development. So from 0 to 2, it's just sort of motor sensations, movements, and that's how the child often understands things and develops things mentally. It's nonverbal. The mind is not too developed, of course, then. And then by maybe ages 2 to 7, the child starts to have more fantasy, personifies things, doesn't really understand time, and of course is very much into play and maybe role playing and learning that way. And again, during these early years, the child is very open to being programmed mentally because it doesn't have a strongly developed mind or critical mind or any of those things that develop later. So that's where a lot of this stuff happens before there's a discernment to occur. And of course, as we know, these can be coming in from past lifetimes, as we talked about previously. And then by the time a child is age 7 to 11, if you're having inner child, age 7 to 11, there's more of a concrete sense of understanding things, observing things. Sort of basic mathematics is what you're learning there, or spelling bee, memorization, and so forth. And by maybe around age 11, the child, and if it's inner child, can have reasoning or problem solving. So it would be more sophisticated. And then it would go from there. So emotional development, which is very important, and that really occurs throughout really a lifetime. In fact, cognitive development does too, mental development. So what does that mean? So that's recognizing emotions. What am I feeling now? I don't know what I'm feeling. Why don't I know what I'm feeling? Well, this could be back to the inner child. Was told not to feel, was punished if they felt, or maybe certain feelings. If they were angry, they couldn't be angry, or they couldn't be sad, depending. So first of all, you need to recognize your emotions. That's part of your development. Then you need to start to understand them. Okay, now, I understand I'm angry now. And you can start to have a sense of, what do I do with that anger? How do I express it? How do I manage it? When would be an appropriate time to express it or not to express it? It's going to take some self-reflection and because part of our emotions is, first of all, understanding ourselves, and then how we can understand others emotionally and relate to them in an emotional way. And I just want to touch on something that's rather important, which is attachments. And many of you may have heard of attachment theory. That's rather just, I'll spell that out. I think it's important to know, and it could answer some of the, why is this happening to me, or why are my relationships like this over and over again? So early on, how a young child, especially those first couple of years, relates to the caregiver, often the mother, is critical. So if the mother is there, smiles, provides comfort, allows the child, to play, supports the child, more or less, the child has what's called secure attachment, feels relatively secure, and that carries through later on. And then adult relationships where you feel pretty comfortable too, from this basis, that you can be dependable, that you can be reliable, that you can trust other people in a sensible way. So that's secure attachment, and that starts when 0, 1, 2, 3 years old. Where was your main caregiver? If your main caregiver was not there, if she didn't caress you, if she was just on and off there, it would produce what's called anxious or ambivalent anxious attachment. Is my mother here? Where is she? And you feel very nervous and anxious. Has she abandoned me? And that because the child's whole life is revolving around the mother, right? Or the caregiver. And that plays out in adults, like, where is he? Where is she? Very clinging, very worried that the person isn't there. Why didn't you call? Why are you late? Where were you? You know, are you leaving me? Why don't you get close to me? I want to be. So that plays out. And this can be all changed too through conscious work and inner healing work like we're doing. Or the avoidant attachment. If the other thing is the child just says, okay, my parent's not here, I'm just going to be aloof. I'm going to be apathetic. I'm not going to deal with my parent because he or she's not there. Avoidant attachment. So when the child grows up, he or she is very independent, you know, won't really commit to anyone, doesn't need anyone, won't get close or intimate, doesn't want to be revealing. So that's called avoidant attachment. And the fourth attachment style is called disorganized. Disorganized attachment, that's sort of a combination of very chaotic. You may have had a very volatile parent where at the one point the parent seemed there and the other point maybe the parent was very out of control, even, you know, violent or abusive. So that's disorganized. And so you don't know when you're an adult when the shoe's going to drop, when things are going to explode. You might then, and all these things could be subject to addictions and self-destructive behavior, right? So the idea is to, with emotional development, going back to that idea, is learning how to understand, recognize and understand emotions, manage your emotions, self-regulate, self-reflect, so you can have positive emotional experiences with others. And that means things like accepting criticism, taking responsibility in appropriate ways, having good boundaries, learning from your mistakes, sharing feelings at the right time, listening, being non-judgmental. So those are all possibilities that can occur from good emotional development. And comments or questions, and hi, Pauline, from anyone so far on any of the just ideas of how we develop as child, which is all there living actively in us right now. And, you know, most people have some inner child, if not a lot of areas, and they may be very hidden. And ironically enough, until we become more conscious, we might think we have no inner child issues. You know, I'm fine. And I've talked to people, and, you know, you may think that, and that's normal actually for many people. But that doesn't mean they're not there. That just means they're hidden and buried and suppressed, basically. But they're coming out in your behaviors. You know, as I said, and we'll talk more about that, you know, when you can't take criticism, when you have poor boundaries, when you feel very defensive and so forth. So that's your inner child trying to protect him or herself, right? Comments or questions thus far, childhood development, mentally, emotionally. I want to do morally in just a moment. Anything coming up here? Okay. All right. So that takes us to one more, just before we go into the inner child more directly, of just how we develop moral development, how you look at the word morally. Now, young children, yes, you know, there is that kind of innocent, playful, wonder, magic child, very spiritual. But for the most part, the child is pretty egocentric. So the world for a very young baby, you know, 1, 2 years old, or even 5, 6, 7, is revolving around herself, right? Very egocentric, you know, her needs getting met. That's mostly normal. Egocentric moral development. How does it relate to me? For the most part. And then just these are just general things. And then as a child, by the time maybe adolescence comes, it's more the group, right? How does the group deal with things? What's the group norms? When we grow up in society, what are the laws? What are the rules? What are people like me doing? That's called a kind of a conventional or ethnocentric morality stage. And again, we grow through these, and some people, you know, never get up to even the ethnocentric stage, or that's as far as they go. And beyond that, going beyond that conventional stage, post-conventional is a more world-centric view, where you feel you're more a citizen of the world. So you look at things not just from you, not just how it affects you, not just how it affects your family or people like you, but different people around the world. And it can go even more cosmocentric. You know, how does it affect the planet on a bigger level? And that's where we grow into that as we mature. So that's what's going on too on a moral level. So those are just a different little crash course, mental, emotional, moral development. Any comments or questions on any of that from anyone? And again, that's a little bit of information either as a review or just if it's new to put it into your kind of memory banks. So when you're helping people, you're kind of saying, okay, this is a 2-year-old, which is different than helping a 12-year-old, where a 2-year-old is mentally, emotionally, morally versus a 12-year-old. Yes, Jocelyn.
I'm just gonna talk about the ego child. It's kind of cute when you look at it because like children are they if good things happen to children, they think they deserve it. And if bad things happen to children, they think they deserve it.
Right,
Right?
right.
That's just a little piece that is interesting for children. They don't know that it's not about them most times when adults are having problems, but they think it is, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, and that's a great example, Jocelyn. And you could explain that because of their mental development. You know, they don't have the discernment, the critical thinking, their emotional development. They don't recognize their emotions and how it relates to themselves and others. Morally, they're very just, everything is around me. I'm not really, in my parents, and that's my world, and I'm either, as you said, whatever they say, that's true. They're sort of the gods, they're the authority figures. That's giving us the truth from on high, so to speak. Yeah, thanks for mentioning. That's a great example. Okay, so let me go now into the inner child. And when I do some of this, I just want to kind of give you a heads up. Some of this might be a little triggering or kind of bringing a few things up, which is okay. Just realize, just kind of hang in there, be calm and relaxed about it. Know that, things come up and we all have these things. So basically, unless you've done a tremendous amount of work on your inner child, you will have some, if not maybe a lot of things there for healing. And other people do too. And it'll be great that knowing what you already know and what you're going to be learning tonight, you're going to be able to help yourself and others in tremendous, really invaluable ways. Okay, so let me give you some kind of an overview of the inner child before we actually do a process and some healing with it to get deeper into the understanding of. Now, I'm going to ask a couple questions and fill in the answers for you, and feel free to take some notes on this too. How did the inner child, well, the inner child is that little child who desires to be nurtured, cared for, loved, being able to play, be spontaneous. It's within you as an adult. It's a living energy in you now, and it may be buried or suppressed or forgotten, but it's still there. It's actually active, and really the goal is to integrate it, to have it be more passive or integrated into your life. So how did this inner child get there? Well, as we mentioned, it's in every adult person. It's in your memory banks, especially the more poignant memories. It's part of, and it was mentioned by Linda earlier, part of your belief systems. And it may influence our decisions. Why do I do what I do? Why was I impulsive? Why did I react? So they're sometimes called unfinished business of the inner child. That's one way of saying it. So there's things we have to complete. If we can go as far as we want in this lifetime, but you could go all the way. I mean, my thought is why not get as much accomplished as you can? And if you're in this course, I would think you would too. And you've already made a lot of progress, all of you. So what's some of the unfinished business? Maybe you grew up too fast. You had to be like the little parent, a little mom or dad. Maybe you had to be, overly responsible. Maybe you had to repress a lot of things. You couldn't act certain ways, maybe joyous ways or ways you couldn't express feelings. I remember one lady I helped, her belief was feelings are dangerous. If I express my feelings, something bad could happen. Where did that come from? And these are developmental stages. And as Jocelyn pointed out, whatever the parents said, that was the law. That was your world. That's the way it was. And you accepted it unquestioningly, and it went into your unconscious and very deep into your cells and your way of looking at the things. Okay. Going on. How does the inner child come into being and get wounded? What was the wounding about? And again, this may be in the womb, and it may carry through from past lifetimes, as we were discussing in the previous class. A denial of our feelings, denial of who we are. Don't be that way. You can't do that. You can't say that. You can't be that way. Living up to others' expectations. This is a big one. I'm trying to be daddy's girls. I'm trying to be perfect. I'm trying to be pretty or smart or be this way or that way. I need to look good or be good. And we're not loved for who we are, right? So that's a wounding. And that's, and it's our parents are doing it because they don't have the healed. That's their inner child, interfering with their parenting or their loving of us. And we don't really know how to enjoy life, how to have fun. That magic child. So how does this show up? Since it's very repressed and buried and unconscious, how do we know it's there? Well, these are kind of things that are indicators. You maybe are overindulged. If you have your own children, maybe you overindulge your own children, or maybe even yourself. Maybe you get too emotional over things. We talked about pleasing. You're trying to please people. You're trying to accommodate people too much. Maybe if you get images of your childhood or old pictures or something, you become very sentimental and very attached to them. Not that it's not good to enjoy all this. Again, you want to put it in kind of a positive perspective. You might have controlling behavior. You might be yelling too or manipulating. Okay. Next aspect of wounded inner child is, what did the child really need to hear? What is this missing part that now you can provide? Because since the child is there, they're actively inside of you or the person you're helping, you can still heal them just as if they were in the room with you, or just as if you were 2 years old and you were getting now the right love, the right messages, the right parenting. You can reparent yourself. And it's incredible what happens. It can really be a very amazing transformation. It can completely turn your life around and help people for years, these patterns. And sicknesses, a lot of physical sicknesses are derived from these patterns. People have these because they play over these negative patterns over and over, and it goes into the body for physical illness. So what are the messages that the inner child needs to hear, but which went unsaid, which often weren't told to you? Maybe things like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of all you are. Just simple, I love you. I care about you. I accept you. I find you beautiful. I find you attractive. And you can kind of put these in relative terms too. You don't want to do things that are so over the top that it doesn't make sense. It's not believable. It's not genuine. You're the most beautiful child in the whole world. You could say, to me, you're the most beautiful child in the whole world. You're bright. You're talented. That was a very bright thing to say. And apologies are in order. Hey, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry I didn't take care of you. And now you can trust me to take care of you. Because the inner child is looking at you. Who's you? You, the adult, the mature adult. You want to become the mature spiritual adult who's soul connected, right? So the child who's in you is looking with you, are you taking care of her? But you don't understand, Philip, I keep getting, hurt, and people keep hurting my feelings and my relationships don't work out. Right. Because you're looking for that care, that trust from the other person. You might have anxious attachment instead of giving it to yourself directly. And that's really the only way it can be healed. It can't be healed secondarily, externally, right? So the message you say to your inner child is, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to protect you. We'll do fun things, healthy, fun things. We'll play together. Those kind of messages feel very good. They're very simple. Well, anyway, think of children. And that's why when we talk to the unconscious, you want to keep it very simple. We talked about hypnotherapeutic messages. A lot of it needs to be very simple and direct, talking to your inner child. If you say things like, if I say things to you, hey, you really deserve success and happiness. How does that feel? It's very simple, and say it genuinely. And then the child is checking your behavior. Are you going to be there for the child? Yeah, but you don't understand. I don't feel joyful and happy. Right. Your inner child doesn't, but you do. You're an adult. You're not a 2-year-old anymore, right? You have that part in you, but as an adult, you don't have to react when someone criticizes you. You don't have to go into a tantrum when you don't get your way, right?
Mm.
Your child does, but when you're a mature adult and say, hey, that's okay. I know you feel neglected. I know you wanted that. Hey, I'm here. Well, we'll find out a way to do some fun things. We can't do it right now, but I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to hug you, or we'll do, visualization. We'll go physically into a park, or in my mind, I'll play with you. I'll hug you. I'll hug a pillow, right? Just going to pause there. Well, how is this kind of landing for you? What kind of things are coming up for you as I'm saying these things? Meaning any of you. Pauline, anything coming up on your end?
Well, it's all good news.
It is good
What you're-
news.
what
I
you're
like that.
saying. And yeah, it's amazing in a way, but it's true. Of course, what you're saying, Philip, but um, hmm, well, it's a whole new, oh God, opening up into more,
Yeah,
that we
it is
can
an
really
opening.
do,
It leaves an opening. I like that term. It allows you to
Um,
open up.
yeah, the freedom,
I like that
and
word.
yeah, and because when I think of, the word no comes to me very much with a lot of no's. I grew up and I
Right.
created the no's too because they were safer than the yeses. You know,
Right. So if you obeyed the no's, you would be okay, even though you didn't maybe like it, but the
yeah,
world was filled with a lot of no's and restrictions, and you couldn't
absolutely.
really do much about it. So, your inner child was programmed to be that way, which is understandable. So
Mm.
until you consciously heal that, I know some of it, we outgrow some of it, uh,
Yeah,
it's still hanging around, right?
yeah, it is. It's an ongoing discovery, really,
It is.
when you're working on yourself.
Right.
Um, mm,
So those are some of the messages uh, the child needs to hear that weren't told or weren't said. So the negative consequences of not hearing these uh, words, not being supported and loved. Now, admittedly, your parents probably loved you, and they did the best they can given who they were in the circumstances. So there is some love, but the missing parts we're concentrating tonight on, the inner wounded child. Uh,
mm,
you didn't learn how to feel normally. That's
mm,
that emotional development. What am I feeling? I can't feel
mm,
that way. Or I can be angry a lot. I can't be sad. I can be sad a lot. I can't be angry. I can cry, but I can't do much else. I can't cry, whatever. Uh, I really didn't learn how to be playful and fun and spontaneous. When was the next, Jane would say, because her father, as she's mentioned, was alcoholic, and he would have explosive tempers and, throw things. So she didn't know what was, and she didn't know, especially as a child, what even caused it. So,
Yeah.
when is the next, glass going to fly across the room? So
Mm.
pins and needles, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So there was problems learning how to feel. We don't really know how to relax, manage stress, appreciate life. We might become, a workaholic. We might be taking ourselves too seriously. We might
Mm.
get isolated socially, have a lot of fear. All these things, are common. And, you might feel and say, we
Mm.
all have these patterns or some of the patterns. So that, welcome to the human race. Welcome. And that's what we came here to. The good news is that the challenges that will help us grow spiritually, become a better coach healer, and help other people, right?
Mm.
So here's a couple things we can do in the coaching part when we're going to do a process shortly. But the coaching part, when you help heal the child, the things you can do is just help a person enjoy small things in life. It's actually in a way simpler than you think. Just little things, everyday things, uh,
Mm.
taking a walk, looking at the sky,
Mm.
feeling sensations of things that feel good to touch, smell the roses, right? So a lot of beauty around you, nature connects us to ourselves, and our inner child is very good. Artwork, children really love artwork, and that could be dancing, that could be music, that could be drawing. Listen to the birds calling, listen to sounds. Might be do singing too. Um,
Mm.
and we mentioned exploring the natural environment, slowing down, pausing, relaxing. Like children are in a very wondrous world, a timeless world, uh, especially when they're in a positive place. And when we can do that in ourselves. We might do it when we're gardening or bicycling or even reading, uh, talking to a friend that we have a lot of rapport with, positive. And also just share our feelings when it's the right way to people. Hey, I'm really feeling frustrated now. I don't really know what to do here. I'm feeling pretty pent up now. I have all this anger. I don't know what to do with it. Okay, well that's good to say that. Whereas the child say, I can't talk about that. So you feel very repressed and tense, and then you act out, right? So begin to share your feelings to the right person the right way. I mean, you don't want to say, hey, in the middle of your business situation, have, an emotional, cathartic, discussion maybe with your boss. That may not work out. So you need the right time and place and person, of course. That's emotional self-management, self-regulation, right? We talked about learning how to play, and there's different play for children and adults. So some of the child play might be in your mind, and it might be just going to a park and going on a swing too, or taking walks in nature. Um, and sometimes being spontaneous, doing something spontaneously. What is the last thing you did spontaneously? When is the last time you just went out, and took a ride to some place that you really felt was a fun place to go or see? And sometimes just not worrying about how we look or how people see us or judge us, letting go of that can be very liberating, right? And laughing, a good movie that makes us laugh, something that we find a humorous image. Animals are often very funny and humorous. Our dogs make us laugh every day, and you can play with them too, and play with other children's. Other people like to listen to music, dance, sports can be good. Coloring books, some people like that. Hugging a pillow or hugging yourself. And there are many other things. Other positive kind of inner child nurturing activities. Anything else that anyone wants to add to that? That was a pretty good list, but anything else come into mind there? Feel free to contribute. Uh, and that's where the coaching comes in. When after you do the healing, you start to mention, suggest, and talk those things. And it can be very simple stuff. That's the interesting thing. It can be quite intense sometimes, because if a child has very buried things, if it's been maybe very neglected, even abused, it can be pretty intense. Also, how have you treated your inner child?
Mm.
So when you have these negative inner feelings, what have you done about it? Well, if you've repressed it, if you've ignored it, basically because you don't know what to do, how does your inner child view you? Well, maybe sometimes after you do this process, even though the inner child feels very loved and welcomed and it's transformational, yes, but still the inner child may have some doubts. Well, you haven't been doing this for me. You haven't been paying any attention to me previously. You haven't let me express my feelings or play it all. You say you're going to do it now. Can I trust you? So that's another motivation for you, the spiritual adult, to actually follow through and take action and really incorporate this in your daily life so the child starts to trust you more. Okay?
Mm.
All right. So that's an overview of
Mm.
childhood development and just some things to be aware of in about the inner child. So things that comments or questions on any of that overview before we do a process.
What happens, Philip, like in the case of, for myself, extreme sensitivity, because of what happened in the womb. So everything is felt with almost an abnormal amount of intensity. And so with that intensity, what actually happens in the families, I didn't grow up with, very abusive parents or anything like that, but they had their stories, but I had all this fear.
Right.
So with the inner child, I just wonder, because things that maybe were not dangerous, of course, were dangerous. The illusion really took over.
Yeah, the perception. So even though they weren't, that you somehow thought they were mistaken.
Yeah, I felt, my feelings said this is dangerous, but it wasn't dangerous, really.
Yeah, this thing like I don't know what's happening. Everything seems okay, but I feel like there's danger and there is no danger, but you're perceiving it. And that can even create a dangerous sort of situation because, it's kind of like, the person who gets victimized by the victimizer. They look for people who are, the targets of that kind of thing, who attract that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it happens to be in the womb, like yours, you've identified already, then you are getting messages from your mother and probably father and the surroundings of things that were unhealthy or dangerous or threatening to you that you picked up. So you would just be healing the inner child at that point in the womb or, upon birth, whenever, and just saying the messages, just like if you were pregnant and you had a child and embryo, fetus, and so forth, you would be communicating in different ways how much you love this child. You'd be saying, I love you, and emoting positively. So it would be the same thing, just coming, at a different stage. So part of it is, when did it originate? And it may even, have some previous past lifetimes that could be part of it too. That's when we do the inner child, you go back to the time when it was occurring. Other comments or questions? Aline, is this making sense for you? I know that some of this is new for you.
No, I lost my internet. I'm just coming back.
Oh, you missed it. Okay, you'll catch the recording.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, Linda.
Just on that part, following on from what Pauline was saying, I actually had to, when I turned my car off, I missed a tiny bit because when I turned it off, I couldn't get the sound and I had to go out and come back in. But one of my children, when he was, excuse me, when he was in the womb, he had a twin for a very short time. And we never knew that there was a twin, but I thought there was because I'd had twins before and it felt different, having 2 to 1. But very early on in that pregnancy, that other twin became what they call non-viable, and then that absorbs into the tissue and stuff, or the placenta or whatever it is. Anyway, I always thought that there had been another baby, and when Johnny was born, there was another placental sac attached, empty sac attached to his sac, And the midwife and doctor said, yes, there was obviously another baby to start with as well. Anyway, it would have absorbed very, very early on in the piece. But as Johnny was my sixth baby, and I always, I found, having kids and nurturing them it's just my thing, it was just very easy. And he was fussing a lot when he was about, he was fussing a lot more than my babies had been. And I suddenly picked up intuitively one day that he was always anxious about if he didn't have someone touching him or being beside him. And I went to the homeopath that I'd been using for a long time, and I said, he's appearing to be never settling. And we just, how a homeopath takes all your symptoms and, all the symptoms, and she asked a lot of questions. And she said, I'm going to have to think about this. And when I was driving, and the last question she asked me was, have you ever done anything that made him feel abandoned? And I was like, gosh, no. I mean, I practically sleep touching him.
Right.
Like, I'm demand feeding. I'm like, he's in my arms the whole time. He's got 5 siblings who adore him and a daddy, like it was, I can't see any abandonment. And then when I was driving home, I suddenly went, hang on, he was abandoned in the womb.
Right.
And I rang her, and she's like, right, now I know what remedy to give him to help him emotionally heal. And it was amazing. It did help so much as well. But it's just so interesting that he could be still
that makes
dealing
sense.
with that now.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Linda, because we didn't quite point that out. So it may not be that the parents were neglecting you or not expressing love or not knowing how to do that. There may just be circumstances. There could be a war, there could be external circumstances, or like Linda said, a miscarriage and so forth. And it's not anything that was sort of deliberately done to you. It was just these life circumstances that you picked up. And as a child, a part of me, in this case, my twin, was abandoned, was taken away from me. And so thanks for pointing that out. It could be that too. I didn't really kind of figure that aspect in. Good. So let's go into the process of healing the inner child, which is a variation in ways of the age regression. And I'll just go over it in your manual. And here it is. It's on section 12.8 in your manual, inner child. And this is, so there's an induction, that's a relaxation. Could be going through the mist again, or even a magic carpet ride, or just a relaxation. Basic hypnotherapeutic. So we do that, you're relaxing, you're going through the mist. And on the other side, you arrive, the scene is a playground. And you're going to meet the inner child there. And you get a sense of what that child looks like. That will tell you some information. Everything will tell you information. And nearby, there's a building. You go into a building, and there's a hall. You're with your child. You see what kind of age maybe the child is, and there's doors on the hallway, maybe on both sides. And there might be numbers on the doors too. And the child picks one of the doors to go through. And that door, if there's a number, if it says 8, it might be like meaning age 8, may or may not. And that opens you up to a scene through that door, right, with your child. So then you see in this regression what's going on with the child. And again, you could start off, just the beginning of it, just something you want more healing with, more manifestation with to begin with. Or you could just do it generally. But usually there's something, you're helping something on an issue. So you're going in the doorway, you find the scene with your inner child. How's she responding, or he's responding? At that point, you can bring in your soul for healing. You can do some EFT tapping. reframing and anchoring, going to the mountaintop. You can do any of the healing methods we know to help heal the child and the intensity there, the wounding. And then at the end, when the child's feeling better, just what does the child need? A hug, a promise of you being there, playing with her, whatever. That would end it, they complete it. And then you would just come back, count back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and open your eyes back in the room and just follow up, is there something to be doing with in your upcoming activities, journaling, doing some walks in nature, doing some things that you talked about in your process. And that's it. All right. Any questions about that? It's, you just stay with it wherever things are occurring. And so let's go through a journey. Linda, you want to do a journey with your inner child?
I could do if someone else
Are you
doesn't
okay?
want to.
Oh, unless someone else wants to.
Yeah.
You want to? Okay, I don't know if you're in a good place to do it because of your driving and things. It's probably not. Okay, yeah, Linda. So we could start with something, and it could be like something I want to manifest, and because the inner child will, can come in on that, or something that you'd like to improve in your life. Is there anything along those lines?
I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure how much this affects me.
Yes.
But I do know that when I have done some inner child stuff, but I was very much taught not to speak up, by my parents, great parents.
Yes.
Gave me heaps of
Sure.
amazingness, and one was a musician and one was a dancer, so it really let me be in that part of my expression. But a bit of the but Dad was an alcoholic, so there's a lot of children should be seen and not heard, and a lot of I don't always express myself. So I'm not, obviously you know me well enough to know that I'm not I'm fine talking.
Oh yes, you're a good talker.
But when there's conflict, real conflict,
right,
I often will suppress.
You shut down?
I can do, yeah. I can do.
So, okay, gotcha. I got the pattern. That's good. You're aware of that. So maybe we could, and to make it even perhaps more effective, Linda, maybe, again, it's good to get a specific. Remember, whenever there's a general issue, like I shut down during a conflict, it's good to get one specific because there may be several patterns there. And if you do a general one, it can get confusing because it can kind of bounce around.
Right.
But if you get a specific one, it could generalize out to the other ones, if there are other ones. So can you have like a certain situation you'd like to be, in a better place for or something?
Yeah. So there's a family member at the moment. I don't quite know how to explain this except for to tell you the story so you can help me identify it. Is that
Sure.
A particular family member is going through some really serious emotional stuff. I would say mental health stuff, and is seeing a therapist and is really volatile. Very, very volatile, and verbally abusive a lot of the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I literally am a person who can be really neutral and calm in those positions. And I'm often, as soon as it happens, so if I'm getting a verbal abuse, I will, which is what my dad used to do, I actually am putting myself in a space, I always do, of being neutral and sort of projecting love to them. I'm always going to a place where I'm thinking, what can I do to help you? You're obviously in pain, like that's how I approach it. But sometimes I'm over accepting. Maybe sometimes, you know, this is what the rest of the family have said to me. Sometimes I need to say, stop it. It gets so that I'm over nurturing them. And then I don't say what I should say is that you should actually, you can't talk to people like that, and you know, you can't keep, you know, ruling
Yeah.
the roost and
Establishing
overpower.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So
it. Thank you. Yeah, boundaries.
So this would most things, if not almost all things, relate to these childhood patterns. You know, sometimes they're in adulthood, but that's why these are very rich and deep, and they've been, you can imagine, I mean, if this is something that started when you're 5 years old, I'm not going to say how old you are, but for decades, let's say, you've been repeating and repressing these patterns. I mean, you, me, and everyone else on the planet, you know, until you consciously deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, you don't outgrow it, these kind of things, and they're here for you to learn. I mean, you're actually here to learn and deal with these things.
Yeah. And I am so aware of it. Actually, that's exactly the word I couldn't think of, boundaries. And we were taught as children, no matter what tantrum our dad had, and he'd had a brain hemorrhage, and then he became an alcoholic, and he was very angry.
Right.
We were told not to answer him back, not to say anything,
Right.
and to pretend publicly that this wasn't happening. We were, you know, all of us, my 3 siblings and I have talked about it a lot. We were told specifically, don't answer back, don't act like there's anything wrong, never let anyone know that this is happening.
Gotcha.
So that,
okay. Yeah, I think we've got plenty of just kind of knowledge, and obviously I know you've done some inner work already on that, and I
have.
recognize and acknowledge you. But I think there's more here. The reason why you know there's more here is because there's still stuff triggering you. And that's the beauty of this program. Wherever you're not feeling comfortable, wherever you're triggered, that means there's stuff to learn and grow and go within and heal, basically. It doesn't mean there aren't difficult things and challenging things and things that are demanding. Of course there are, but how you deal with it is what will be the indicator. So we got plenty to go with. And are you in a place where we could go into the relaxation process and visit?
I think I can do it. I'm actually in the car, but I can't see why not.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad it's comfortable and safe there. Great. Okay. So now, whenever you're ready, Linda, you can start to relax a little more, do some nice, gentle breathing. And if it's comfortable to close your eyes, you feel free to do that. And with every breath you take in your own energy. With a breath and exhale, slowly releasing what you don't need. And as you breathe more beautiful, clear, relaxing energies, I'll just count you down, going down into a very relaxed state. 5, 4, becoming even more relaxed, Linda. 3, letting go in your whole body, waves of relaxation. 2, getting more and more at ease. 1, letting go even more. And maybe there's a mist, or there's a way you're traveling in your mind, and you end up in a playground with a child. You arrive in this playground, and you sense or see the child. And as you begin to sense or see the child, describe what you're experiencing.
So I'm just seeing a little child who is just very vulnerable. I can sense that she's very vulnerable, and she's very full of love and very unsure of herself. Yeah.
What does she look like?
She looks like she looks like a bit like a cherub, sort of, but bigger. Yeah.
Okay.
She's just a little kind of chubby, little cute thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's cute. How's her clothing and the way she looks? Anything else?
Yeah, she's got sort of
she's got sort of like curlyish kind of baby hair, and she's in a little dress. She's
Mhm.
got a little cardigan on, and she's well dressed. She's got nice little shoes, and she's very careful about her clothes because she's been told to be very careful about them. Yeah.
Yes, right. How old is she? Are you getting a sense?
She seems to be about 3, maybe 4. Yeah.
Gotcha. So nearby, you can go with this little 3-year-old, 4-year-old girl to a building nearby. Go into the building. There's a hallway there. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
doors on both sides. They may or may not have numbers on the doors, and she's going to show you which door she wants to go through. And let me know when you're ready to go through and you're going through that door.
Yeah. We've got a door. It's a red door.
Any number on the
Yeah.
door?
No.
Okay, so you go through the red door. That's interesting. And tell us what the scene is on the other side of the door when you go through it.
It's like a hospital ward.
Yes.
Mm.
What's going on?
Actually, her dad's in the hospital. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's going on with him?
Do you mean what's wrong with him?
Yeah, if there's something wrong, is he actually, in the being treated
Well,
in the hospital?
yeah, she doesn't know. She just knows that something happened to him and he is unconscious.
Wow, okay.
Mm.
And how is she feeling?
Anxious. She's feeling a bit confused and anxious because her mum's there and she's very distraught. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
How's she
she's feeling
feeling?
worried.
Yeah. How's she
Yeah,
feeling
worried.
about between the dad and the mom? How's that playing for the child?
Well, she's just feeling that her mum is distraught and her dad's not, he's just got his eyes closed and he's not actually aware well he's not awake. He can't wake up. And the
Mm-hmm.
what she's mostly feeling is anxiety for her mum because her mum's so scared and upset. That's what she's picking up.
So she's
Yeah.
picking up the fears of the mother.
Yes. Yes.
And what is she afraid of, the child?
What is the mother afraid of?
No, what is the child afraid of?
Okay. She's afraid of her mum not being okay. That's her biggest fear, is that her mum won't be able to look after her or will forget that she's there.
Okay. So she might be abandoned.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So she's feeling anxious and fear of abandonment. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. How much anxiety, 1 out of 10? How much fear of abandonment?
Probably about a 5.
Okay.
About a 5,
For both?
maybe a 6. For anxiety, probably more a 6, and abandonment, uncertainty and abandonment, probably about a 5 to 6 as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So we can, just to start to calm ourselves down, the nervous system, should we do a little EFT tapping?
Yep.
So we could just do some tapping about this fear and tapping the head and then tapping the eyebrow, this fear,
Despair,
this anxiety. Yeah.
this anxiety,
Under the eyes is fear and anxiety.
despair and anxiety,
Under the nose is fear and anxiety.
fear and anxiety.
The chin is fear and anxiety.
Yeah, fear and anxiety.
The collarbone is fear and anxiety. Under the arm, healing, calming the fear and anxiety. And then the reset, Linda, the top of the head, this fear, tapping the top, fear and anxiety. Breathing and tapping the heart to integrate, calming fear and anxiety, letting that go. Anything is possible and miracles are happening now. And so, connecting with your soul, would you like to see yourself up on the mountaintop or just feeling that sense of the connection with your soul now?
Yeah, I'm just feeling it.
You're feeling it?
Mm-hmm.
So you're bringing in your soulful energy into your heart,
Yes.
breathing it in with the perfect love and healing for you.
Yeah.
Feeling more acceptance, expansion, and opening up your head and feeling connected with the whole universe, feeling this wonderful trust and sense of love and connection with everything on a deeper level. Breathing that in. How's that for you?
It's very calming.
Yes, it is. So sending that calming energy to the child.
Mm-hmm.
And is it an energy? Is it a color? Is it a shape, message, combination?
It's actually it's like a flow of golden energy.
Oh, okay. That's nice. So sending that flow of golden energy to the child.
Mm-hmm.
Is she still 3 or 4?
She is.
Okay. So sending it the 3-year-old, the 4-year-old, beautiful golden energy with all its calmness and its love. And how's she receiving it?
She's actually, it's really calming that feeling down. She's feeling like she is not responsible for fixing what's outside of her, and therefore she's feeling much calmer within herself. Mm.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Is there anything she needs or wants?
She needs and wants this golden light that
Yeah.
I'm sending her.
Yeah, sounds good. So what can you do in terms of ongoing with the golden light, in terms of visualizations or taking time in your day? What would you like to do to keep her filled with the golden light energy?
I think stop and just focus on it flowing like right now. Just do it a few times a day, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's very peaceful. It's calming all of the anxiety down.
Mm-hmm. Is there
And
particular? Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
Is there
Oh,
particular
just
times to do it?
in the morning, probably in the middle of the day, definitely in the afternoon or evening, before bed, before sleep.
Do you feel
Yeah,
like you can integrate that into your schedule?
totally.
Okay, that would work for you. Great.
Yeah.
Anything else that the inner child wants to say or you want to say to the inner child? Or do?
Just that a realization that the anxiety it's come from feeling a need to fix everything,
Right.
and that little child is trying to figure out how to fix everything and make everyone feel okay. And this flow of light that we're just sending her is making her realize that she isn't responsible for everybody else being happy, but that she could send the light to them.
Okay. Yeah, even the child could send light. That's very beautiful. So you can send light to the child and she can send light to others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I can integrate with her and we can just do it.
Collaborate.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else before we complete the process, Linda?
Yes, that this just doing that is actually a phenomenal shift because she now actually feels not invisible, which
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize till now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
She feels visible
mm,
in a good way.
in a good way. So instead of not counting, instead of not mattering, yeah, or
Mm-hmm.
people missing her out when things are happening. Yeah.
Not mattering or hiding. Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Got it.
mm,
Beautiful. So just knowing, as we're about to close, that you can regularly send the golden light to this wonderful child and she can send it too, and that she can be
yes.
visible in a beautiful way and ready to come back through the mist. I'm going to count you back up. 1, ready to come back. 2, remembering anything you want from this, Linda. 3, removing anything you don't want. 4, you will return and be very refreshed and very wonderful with the golden light, peaceful light coming through you and your child. 5, opening your eyes, refreshed, alert, grounded.
Mm, very great. That's wonderful. I hope you all did that for yourself at the same time. It's so good.
Yeah, we can. I think. I mean, I did. I would imagine the others picked up your energy. That was very good. So, just to quickly review, what did we just experience? Found an issue, which is conflicts. Uh, the conflict of when, I guess we could say, when things are uncertain with boundaries and stuff, when people are having difficult times, like a family member
Mm,
where we started, that would be a
mm,
starting point. And you could look
yeah,
at that, when you're there, you can send that golden energy, when the family member's there. Would that be a
I think that's perfect. Yeah,
strategy? Yep, right.
yeah, perfect.
So bring it full
Mm,
circle. And so we counted her down, going down when you go into the unconscious, 5 to 1, relaxing, going through a mist, or just ending up peacefully transporting to the playground, see the child. What's the child like? It's interesting. Sometimes a child looks very tattered or beaten or dirty, or is hiding
mm,
under. So all kinds of things can happen there. That's why I just asking what she looked like. But also she said she had to look very good too. That was an interesting kind of restriction, sort of, you have to look good or else type of thing. Um,
yeah.
that came out as a little uh, revealing. So then we went through the hallway to the scene with the father in the bedroom, treated in the hospital, mother anxious, dealing them with the anxiety and the fear of abandonment. Did some EFT tapping, did soul connection, found the golden energy, brought it to the child. And the child following up was going to use it, and Linda's follow up was going to do the visualization 2 or 3
Mm.
times a day about the golden energy so she and the child can use it. That was it. So, comments or questions on that?
For me, I felt safety. My little inner child wanted safety. That came from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to give her safety. And I like the golden light. And to do that, several times a day, whenever you feel that it feels right to do so. To send a golden light
Mm-hmm.
to that inner child, to the child
Mm-hmm.
that felt
Yeah,
so
any
unsafe.
of us could actually do that.
You know. Mm.
How was that for you, Eileen? Was there some highlights or things you particularly liked?
Well, I was busy writing it down because
You
it
were
was
doing a
quite,
lot of writing and note
yeah,
taking.
it was quite interesting.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, great. Um, Linda, any follow-up comments as we're getting toward the close here?
Yeah. Just how easy that was to go into that with your guidance. And I have to tell you guys an extra story. I was going to do it afterwards, but this conflict that's been going on with the family is everyone is very near and dear to me that's in this conflict. And I've been reflecting on, not to that level that I just did now, but on how I need to lovingly speak to someone. And, I've had this sort of thing, and I had a dream. I have this thing where I'm like, give it to God. I always do this meditation or whatever and say, I'm not getting through this. I'm giving it to you for messages. And I dreamt that Philip, you and Jane came to me in my dream. This is this week, and did some process with me. And
We did process
you,
in your dream.
yeah, no, yeah. I don't know if it was this or not. I can't remember, but I just know that I woke up knowing that it was all going to be okay. So, and that it would flow, and that if it, like, it was a healing, whatever so Jane was telling you what to do, and then you were talking the process. And then I woke up, and I'd been quite anxious for a couple of days about this situation. And then I woke up and I was like, it's going to be okay. And now that's like probably about 2 nights ago. And now today I got to do this. So how's that? It's pretty
That's
far
pretty
out.
amazing.
Yeah,
Pretty
totally.
synchronous. Yeah. Full
Yeah.
circuit there.
And I just feel so calm. And I've just realized that part of the reason that I've been anxious is because it is my family, and
Sure.
and that it involves everybody looking to me to help the person, and because everyone's feeling a little bit anxious about someone they love being in that state, but also it's hard to deal with on a daily basis. So
Sure.
yeah, so I'm clearly the one in the household that's going to do the thing, or in the family unit.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I just feel so
Yeah.
peaceful.
You
Yeah.
can lead the way and be a great role model, which I'm sure you are for your other family members. Yeah, that's
I
great.
have my days.
Yeah, well, yeah, we all have our days. Yeah. So anyways, inner child, this is
Yeah,
one of the
good.
more profound aspects of healing in the whole course here. And it, there's a lot to it, just learning it and healing yourselves. Hopefully you can come to the lab on Thursday with Jane, because you're going to probably get some healing that may be breakthroughs and last a lifetime. So it could be extremely useful, not only for learning it to help others, but to help yourself. You could get something there that you might not ever get in your whole lifetime just in this class, because it's a great environment for tuning into something, and it's there. It will be there. And if you can find a way to address it through the inner child process we're teaching, which you can, it's extremely helpful, and then you can help others too. So, any final comments or questions before we conclude?
Yeah, I have one.
Sure,
For,
Pauline.
the inner child, that's kind of strange, maybe, to people. Maybe it's probably strange to me at some point. So, what exactly is the inner child? Sort of, it's a part of us that stays in our memory. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's in our memory, and it's in our body. It's a part of our living system. So it's an energy based on our childhood memories, part of our character, part of the ways we perceive the world. So we have different parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
We are not, we're not in the soul. We are unified, but we come down on the planet and have different parts, different ways of viewing the world. We have parts that protect ourselves. We have parts that are very creative. We have parts that are very critical, and all these different parts are within us, and kind of like an inner family, they're sometimes called. So they're inner energies. And the idea is to have them work together for you. And a lot of them are very unconscious because of what happened. They were formed in childhood, or even, like you said, could be in the womb even, or earlier. So they're active energies within us that sometimes need healing, need help to be more whole and live a more fuller life and do what we really want to do and want to manifest.
So they just come, part of the spirit in the form. Is that What?
Yeah, the form and
Mm.
spirit, you might say. So the different ways we manifest different energies within us, which get split off from the whole. So the more innocent magic child, the child that's very playful and feels a part of the whole world, is very beautiful and connected with your soul.
Right.
But the part that feels, just to use like Linda's example, that feels very anxious and worried that she did something wrong and has to look a certain way and everything, we're carrying this energy with us, all of us in our own ways. And until we address it and heal it, and that's part of the journey to find out about it and heal it and bring it back into the fold, into the wholeness of us.
Wow. It's very complex. It's very simple. There's a simplicity, but there's incredible
It's kind of simple, but
complexity.
it's both
Interesting.
complex and simple.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's, wow, it's kind of like they're amazing. Well, the whole thing is amazing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of things can be answered and addressed and solved just by this inner child healing.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so hopefully Thursday you can practice with Jane, and she'll help you too to go deeper, and it could be just a little area that throws you off, but it's a great opportunity to learn this and to help yourself and others. So I'm going to conclude the official class. If anyone wants to stick around